KillAura is a cheat that makes the cheater automatically attack all nearby players without needing to aim or click. It usually also increases reach, which allows the player to attack things from farther away than normal. Most KillAuras have an option called Autoblock, which makes the cheater attack while blocking. This is impossible for legit players to do. In this video, we'll be creating a check to detect Autoblock. Our check will rely on information from packets. Packets are simply small pieces of data sent between the client and the server to communicate all game information. Our check will focus on the packets that the client sends to the server. Whenever the player does anything in game, such as blocking their sword, unblocking their sword, or attacking, the client will send a packet to the server communicating this. Don't worry about the packet names. The important point is simply that we can track what the player is doing by listening to their packets. Using packets, our check becomes quite simple. We will maintain an isBlocking variable for each player on the server, and update it based on when the player blocks or unblocks their sword. Then, when the player sends an attack packet, we will check if isBlocking is true. If it is, we'll increment a buffer and then flag when the buffer reaches some threshold. The buffer exists simply to prevent false positives. We can see that this detects the autoblock on Liquid Bounce's KillAura. However, cheat developers are smart and added an Unblock Mode to Autoblock, which works by sending an unblock packet immediately before attacking and then blocking again right after attacking. This allows the cheater to still be blocking most of the time, but it bypasses our previous check because the player technically is unblocked when they attack. We can see the Unblock Mode in action here, and you can notice that it is not flagging our previous check. However, we can detect this because the time between the unblock and the attack packets is less than 2 milliseconds, which is impossible for legit players to replicate. We can test this in-game by keeping track of a last unblock variable, which will be set to the current time whenever the player sends an unblocking packet or changes item slots. Then, when the player sends an attack packet, we will print out the current time minus the last unblock time. When auto-blocking, we can see that the attack packets are sent 0 to 1 milliseconds after the last unblock packet. When I block it normally, we can see that attack packets are sent over 50 milliseconds after the last unblock packet. Therefore, we can reliably detect the unblock mode of autoblock by flagging if the current time minus the last unblock is less than 2 milliseconds whenever the player attacks. Our check now detects autoblock. Because we handled both ways that a player can unblock, which are unblocking your sword normally or changing item slots while blocking, we're able to detect both of the unblock modes on Liquid Bounce client. Here's the actual code for the check. We maintain the isBlocking and last unblock states for each player in a hash map. Then, when we receive a packet indicating that the player has blocked their sword, we will set isBlocking to true. Next, when the player unblocks their sword or switches item slots, we will set isBlocking to false and also set the last unblock time to the current time. Finally, when the player attacks, we will get the time since their last unblock by doing current time minus last unblock time. If the player is blocking, we can simply increment the buffer and then flag them for attacking while blocking. Otherwise, if the time since last unblock is less than 2 milliseconds, we will also increment a buffer and flag them once the buffer reaches a certain threshold. Thanks so much for watching. I'm not sure what to do for my next video, so let me know in the comments if you want to see more anti-cheat videos or something else.